Okay, so let me start with this, right? It was not a fantastic quarter for Pearl Abyss, but it was also not a terrible quarter, even though some of these numbers might not look good to you. Let me put this into perspective. Number one pretty good gauge of whether a company is having a good quarter or a bad quarter when they announce the earnings is their stock price. Okay. The Pearl Abyss stock price rose 5% after they presented this. Okay. So the numbers might look terrible, but you never know, or they might look average, right? But you never know what the expectation was of analysts. So in this case, you can clearly see that whatever they presented, however good or bad it was better than the analyst expected. Now, having said that, the biggest thing is the operating revenue. You can see here the operating revenue is 81.8 Korean won. That translates to about $60 million in the quarter, and this is significantly lower, so 3 or 4% lower than last quarter. But in finance, it always makes, especially in gaming, it makes a lot of sense to compare it to the same quarter of the previous year, because you have seasonal effects, yada yada, right? Especially with EVE Online, for example, where you have expansions coming out, or you have a summer lull, and same with their other big IP, which is Black Desert Online. So some good, some bad, lower than last quarter, right? The lowest quarter of the last 4 quarters, but better than second quarter of 2023 on the revenue side. On the highlights, they mention Equinox as something that came out in June, as we all know, and they also mentioned the EVE Vanguard new map Solstice, which is, for us, that might not be a big deal, but for them, they always try to focus on stuff that is new, stuff that is a new development, stuff that is coming, because that is what investors act on, right? Everything that is current, everything that is going is old news, and is typically, for a gaming company, not paying their bills unless they have an incredibly successful game on their hands. But we'll see that in a second here. New IP, on page 1 of their review, they're already not only talking about Black Desert for PC in China, which they're waiting on launching, but they're immediately talking about Project Awakening. Now, Project Awakening, some of you might know this as EVE on the blockchain, but CCP. Hold on, let me use the correct wording here from CCP. It's a single shard survival experience set in the EVE universe. All right, that's what we're calling it now. And EVE Galaxy Conquest also on a soft launch in several countries, and that is the EVE-based 4X strategy game that was developed mainly for mobile platforms. Again, this might not be that significant for EVE players, but it is significant for Pearl Abyss because it's new IP. They like talking about new IP because it gets investors excited. All right. Now, let's talk about operating performance here. Again, this is the same graph as we saw before. And yes, year over year, they're up 4%. Quarter over quarter, they're down 4%. All right. If we're looking at the operating profit or operating loss, as it is in this case, we can see that they made a pretty significant loss here. This is 5.8 billion won loss. That's $4 million lost in the quarter on operating profit. Operating profit means it's everything that has to do directly with their day-to-day, their core operations, which is making and publishing video games, right? You can see that on the right, on the net profit, there is a plus here, but that comes from financing operations and so-called other operations. So I already talked to Crota about this earlier. They do have this thing called what is this? Pearl Abyss Capital. So this is where they invest, and I guess it's an incubator or an investment fund where they invest into startups, as you can see here. And some of the exited ones they have here. Apparently, they're very good at that because venture capitalist firm. Thank you, Commander Starscream. this is what pulls it out every time for them, right? Whenever they have a terrible quarter, they have some good returns on financial income. So while video game development might not be going as planned right now, at least their investments are. All right. Now let's get to the very, very interesting part, and then I'll also pass it on to Crota and Angry for comments. Let's look at EVE Online revenue. Okay. This on the left is the only time we get to see the EVE revenue every quarter. That is this report. So for EVE Online, you can see that compared to second quarter last year, it has gone up from 20.2 to 21.6. So for EVE Online, at least, that is very, very good news, right? We're seeing what is this? EVE is up. Where did I have those numbers? I'm sure, Crota, you had those numbers earlier. They're up.
It's about 7% year on year.
7% year on year up. That is significant. And they're much higher than the previous quarter. Although in this quarter, we did have an expansion. So you would expect Q2 to be higher than Q1. But it being significantly higher than Q2 2023 is a significant success for EVE Online, I would say. And if you're looking at the 10% that Black Desert Online has dropped since last quarter, and the also significant but not as large increase on percentage-wise on Black Desert Online revenue compared to last year, I think CCP within the Pearl Abyss company is feeling quite good right now. If we look at revenue by platform here, this is interesting as well. Black Desert Online is the only thing that that is running on platform on console for Pearl Abyss. So you can actually see that the reduction here of the console revenue is what is that? Is that here? This is only attributable to Black Desert, and they did say that that they had that they had what was it? I think in the transcript they said they hadn't transported the content to newer platforms. So yeah. Overall, this is quite good, I guess, for EVE Online. You wouldn't you wouldn't expect. I at least didn't expect the significant increase over last year, because Q2 2023 was very good. And one thing they also mentioned above and beyond this in the transcript was that they expect EVE to be 20 billion won plus every quarter from now on. So that means that they are expecting this to be not a one-time thing, but to continue, right? So that is pretty clear expectation setting and pretty bold, considering that the last 4 quarters they only beat 20 billion won once, right? Angry Crota, anything else on the EVE versus Black Desert Online revenue?
Yeah, that statement on the 20 billion was big. I mean, I'd love to know if Hilmer was sitting there confident about it or had his head in his hands. I mean, just compare what Angry was saying about the MER. I mean, what the Korean management are saying is Equinox was such a success that we're now going to 21, 22 billion a quarter instead of 17 or 18 that it was. So just to put this in perspective, we were expecting EVE Online to make 78 billion won in revenue this year. We now expect it to make 84. So, a good 7% higher. And likewise for 2025, they think it'll be 7% higher than what they thought. So this is a big deal. If Equinox doesn't work, then they will have to pull their numbers back again. But in these Pearl Abyss Q2, I mean, Black Desert is a bit weaker than people thought, but EVE Online was stronger, and it sort of bailed them out of it. So EVE Online was the clear positive standout.
I wonder if that that number, that 20 billion that they're throwing out, is also based on their hope on other IP, which is, beyond 2025. But they do have 3 out of the 4 that are coming out, I guess, in the next 2 years, because Doke V is probably not coming out till 2026. So let's say coming out in the next 2 years, 3 out of the 4, Vanguard, Project Awakening, and Galaxy Conquest, are EVE IP. So I wonder if they are saying, well, of course it's not going to go down because we're also going to have new content coming out in this IP, and that's certainly going to add to this 20 billion, right?
Vanguard for sure, perhaps for 25 and 26. Eve Echoes, no. They actually pulled back their expectations for Eve Echoes by $1 billion for next year. So if it is anything, it's 24, 25, 26. All you can really see is Vanguard as the next. I don't think Project Awakening really adds anything to the numbers at that point.
No, but Galaxy Conquest is another thing, right? Galaxy Conquest is a mobile game besides Echoes, which they just brought into soft launch, and it seems to be monetized like a typical mobile game. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to be playing it a lot, but it could add revenue, right? Because Echoes didn't really work for them. But if Galaxy Conquest might at least add $1 million or 2 here or there, or $1 billion or 2 in one.
Yeah, could do. I don't really have a view. I mean, the other thing they did sort of reiterate is we're going to get 2 expansions every year. Now you could say Vanguard and Equinox was this year, but that's the way the gaming world is going. You need to keep these expansions going to keep your sort of traditional IP ticking over. Because what they're doing is Crimson Desert has been pushed back by 6 months again. So and this company will live or die on whether they get Crimson Desert off the ground, and that's now Q3 2025. So they need the traditional IP like EVE Online and Black Desert to sort of keep on ticking over, because they'll never make a sustainable profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Crimson Desert, for those of you that don't know, is the big new IP that Pearl Abyss is working on, and so pretty big is that they are going to have a playtest at Gamescom, which happens here in like 2 weeks or so. So they are going to show it off. But as Crota says, the launch has been pushed back again. Initially, it was planned to be released right around this fall, I think, right? So there's investors are expecting them to return to profitability based on new IP like Crimson Desert, not on old IP like Black Desert Online or EVE Online. I think they're happy if EVE Online grows a little bit and can sustain this this amount of revenue. However, we know from the CCP numbers that we're getting from the Icelandic tax office that at this current level, CCP is not profitable, right? So while it's also a question of how long is Pearl Abyss going to want to keep financing CCP through this, or can CCP turn around in a year or two to actually break even based on EVE Online? If you ask me, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to be able to. I think the only way that CCP is going to become profitable is if Project Awakening is a hit, because I don't think Vanguard is going to make a huge difference for them. So it's all riding on Project Awakening for CCP, just like for Pearl Abyss, it's all riding on Crimson Desert, right?
Yeah, they made a 16 million loss last year. If the profits this year should be higher than, I guess, 6 or 7 million than we would have thought, given how well Equinox appears to be doing. Take a view on what their costs are going to do, go up or down. I suggest they're going to go up. So yes, hard to see how they're profitable this year. They mess around with those crypto tokens, which sort of bails them out. But yeah, I'd be amazed if they're profitable this year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Angry, go ahead.
I would think that CCP actually, how do you define it? CCP is profitable if you operationally, but they're not profitable because they're investing into Awakening and Vanguard.
True. Yeah. I mean, if they would just not develop new property and just run EVE Online, they could probably run it profitably. But then the question is, would Pearl Abyss accept that, because they want growth, right? And they want new stuff. So I think, but you're right, Angry. If they focused on EVE Online, that they could probably run it profitably. Yes. But that's also not how the game development world works, right? They create something new, like unless you're World of Warcraft or Fortnite or something, you have to create new games to be profitable and to grow.
I mean, there's a quoted company in the UK called Frontier Developments. It does Elite Dangerous. Now, the good thing there is you can see all their presentations online. When they launch a new game, within the first 2 months, they get back everything they spent on that game. And then it becomes a sort of, how long can they keep that game going for as a sort of an annuity? So it's just so important that these businesses launch a game. If it fails, you're in trouble. But if you can succeed and you can keep the new games coming, then you're a money-making machine.
Yeah, that's why I think Vanguard is in my view, Vanguard is such a big risk, right? Because you're investing all this development capacity into something that seems like it could be just an add-on. And if you want to pull in new players to EVE Online, I just don't know if it's enough to move the needle to make them enough money. But I would think somebody at CCP has had a look at this. It might just be me. I might just be too old for Vanguard. When is Vanguard supposed to be released? I don't think we know. Do we, Angry? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, but also as a rule, I would never answer that question on stream, because even if I knew, I wasn't sure if I would be able to say it. So not that they would share Vanguard release date with us. If we look at the outlook here, this is the page that is looking at outlook. For Black Desert, they, in the transcript, it said, despite receiving a license from the Chinese government in June to operate Black Desert Online on the mainland, the game will not operate in China in the third quarter. So that there's a delay there. So that's an issue for them. But that's independently of EVE Online, of course. If we're looking at EVE Online, you can see that they are mentioned here. They are mentioning the Alliance tournament, which is happening quite soon. And then EVE Online launch preparation, which is, I don't know. They, this would make me think that it's coming, that the actual project launch is coming very soon, which I doubt. But hey, they don't have a date on here. Growth strategy, here they're mentioning a Project Awakening second test, but I'm sure Project Awakening is even further off in terms of a launch date. And then pre-registration for EVE Galaxy Conquest, which is probably going to hit the market sooner than later because they're already in soft launch. And then I already mentioned this. There's one last thing I want to show you guys before I open it up, and that is, you can see in the operating expenses, you can see down here the number of employees. So you can see the year over year, they have 5% less development staff at Pearl Abyss and 6% more business staff, right? Which is, they're making more money on their capital division. But ideally, you would want to see a gaming company increasing their development staff and not necessarily decreasing it. But they're an operating loss, so I'm sure they have to cut costs as well. If you look at the year-over-year changes here, you can see that they have saved 8% on labor cost. This is 10 cent, I think, for them as well. They've saved 9% on advertising, which is quite significantly, and then a little bit here as well. But overall, they're down 5%. So they are showing here to investors that they can cut costs pretty much. Can we see? I don't have the cash flow.
Unfortunately, we
statement.
also know who some of those costs are, and they're not
Yeah.
necessarily good costs.
No, absolutely. I don't have a statement of cash flows, unfortunately. Somebody asked. J555 asked. We don't have that here. We only have the balance sheet, and we have the P&L. Angel says, as a hardcore BDO player, I'm not surprised that BDO money are dropping off. I only came to play Eve because Pearl Abyss didn't release any new content. That's interesting. Coming from BDO to Eve, that's a move I don't hear a lot, but welcome, man, and good to see you. Oh yeah, you have BDO in your name, so look at that. Wasn't the number of employees roughly the same? No, it was 5% down. The total number was roughly the same, but less development staff. Quarter over quarter. Minus devs plus suits. That's right, Dave. That's how it goes. All right, that's Pearl Abyss. Crota, Angry, anything I might have missed?
There's only a couple of things I can think of. I mean, one, they still get a payment from Tencent. This is to Pearl Abyss, or sort of getting knocked out of China, and that ends at the end of this year. And I don't know how much it is, but it was enough for people to mention it. But the second thing I'll say is, for all the years of following the quarterly announcements, this is the first time an analyst in Korea has ever asked about CCP. And it was from the positive as well. It was, the analysts were saying didn't expect it to be so good, and that's when the management said yes, it'll be over 20 billion from here on in. And like I said, I'd love to know how Hilmar thinks of that. Is he in a bit of a panic now, or is he confident?
I think Hilmar is, I think Hilmar is feeling good about being the good guy this month, so the performing profit center this month. However, I think he's feeling the pressure from that 20 billion comment. But yeah, Hilmar, if you're listening, let us know how you're feeling. Angry, anything else?
No, I think that's all I've got.
Cool. Yeah, that's a lot of numbers in the first hour today. Thank you, Crota, and thank you, Angry, for joining me. Please let's do this again next month if you're around, Angry, and Crota, definitely next quarter for the Pearl Abyss numbers. And yeah, feel free to stick around if you want to, but otherwise just drop off. And Crota, we still have to give away your 10